Neonic Void Productions presents.
Welcome to Spookocalypse. I am your host, Bunyip, and I am joined here today with... Who are you?
You know me. You love me. The gay underneath your bed going, yes, at 3 a.m. Hi, I'm Zio.
Like a very low
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
You wake up and like, what was that?
And my hand just goes out with the whole limp wrist. Yes, as it slowly goes out back underneath the bed. Just your neighborhood. Like, exactly. Yes, queen, work. Slowly extends hand out from underneath the bed and snap. And then slowly just retracts the hand back. But hi, welcome back to Spookocalypse. Before we get into today's episode, Future Devin, insert that subscription, that sponsorship here if we have it, please. I hope to God we have it. Future Devin. If we don't, I am so sorry. We tried, girl. We tried. Anyway, if you look in the description below, you will see a link to a link tree that'll take you to the other podcasts of Neonic Void Productions, Valiant Podcasts. We'll also have a YouTube, a link to the YouTube channel if you want to go check that out as well. And a link to the Killer Hawks movie trailer, which is a film that I am working on as the current editor. So please go give that trailer a view and subscribe to that channel. Get us some views. Get excited for the movie, because I am. More information on that as it gets close to the release date, which is sometime next year. Back on to Spook. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, because I'm not calling it by that dumb name, we're on Twitter at Spookocalypse. That's at SPOOKOCALYPSE, baby. Yeah. So today's flavor mint is I don't know.
We can't.
Trees.
I was gonna say, like, what were they smoking in the cabin?
Oh, I mean, I could tell you what they were probably smoking in the cabin. Marijuana. It's a CBD gummy. There you go. The CBD gummy.
A burnt CBD gummy.
Yes, a burnt CBD gummy.
Burning themes in this film.
There are. So again, I need to start doing this, but spoilers ahead. I never do it. I need to. So if you don't know, I mean, we talk about movies here, so spoilers. But today we are going to be talking about a movie called... What's the movie called?
In a Violent Nature.
Yes. So In a Violent Nature was directed by Chris Nash. Chris Nash, for those of you who don't know, is a director that directed films like, God, what has he directed? I think he directed The Void. Yes, he directed The Void. One of my favorite. No, he didn't. What the fuck? No, he didn't. Never mind. Scratch that. Future Devin had that part out. No, he didn't. When you look up his name, The Void shows up, and I'm like, nope, he didn't direct that. That's a lie. He was in ABCs of Horror, and he was in The Void. Was he an actor in The Void? He didn't direct it, but I think he was the transformed Sarah in The Void. Oh God, he was the monster? Oh, I live. Okay, but yeah. So Chris Nash. Now this film was written by Chris Nash as well. And the producer of this movie was Peter. Oh gosh. I don't even know how to say that name.
Peter Kuplowski?
Yes, Peter Kuplowski. It really fucks with my dyslexia. I am so sorry for not being able to pronounce Your Name, Peter. But it was also produced by Peter and Shannon Hanmer. And it stars, oh God. Bunyip, read the names who stars in this film.
Okay, hang on. You've got Rye Barrett as Johnny. You have Andrea Pavlovic as Chris. You have Cameron Love as Colt. Reese Presley as the Ranger. Liam Leone as Troy. Charlotte Cregan as Aurora. Lee Rose Sebastianis as Brody. Sam Rolston as Aaron. I think it's Aaron. Maybe it's, yeah. Alexander Oliver as Evan. Timothy Paul McCarthy as Chuck. And Lauren Marie Taylor as the woman, which I guess means the person that was driving the truck at the end.
Yes. And she, if you do not know, is a regarded scream queen. She was in the film, she was in Friday the 13th Part 2. So she is a very classic scream queen. So the fact that she was in the movie was kind of like a nice little homage to her role in Friday the 13th Part 2. But okay, so this film was distributed by IFC Films and Shudder, and the production companies were, of course, Shudder Films, Zygote Pictures, and Low Sky Productions. Zygote? Is that Zygote or Zygote? Zygote.
Where are you seeing this? Zygote.
Production companies.
If it ends with an E, it would be Zygote.
Yeah, Zygote. Zygote Pictures and Low Sky Productions. The budget for this movie was $4.5 million, and it's a Canadian horror film. So it's, of course, in English. And this film was released initially at Sundance in January 24th, 2024, and it was released in theaters May 31st, 2024. And it hits Shudder. God. When did it hit Shudder? Hit Shudder September 13th. Yes, Friday the 13th. So a couple Friday at the time of this episode, about 3 weeks ago. I happened to see this movie in theaters when it came out initially. So okay, again, this movie, like last week, this movie doesn't have a lot of plot per se. So for those of you listening, or if you know anything about this film got a lot of publicity because it is a slasher film from the perspective of the slasher. And there was a whole debacle about it when it first got released, that people were ranting and raving and basically having a fit. Some people are having a fit over it. And it wasn't that great. It was kind of boring. And I'm like, what? And then when I saw the movie, it made total sense. So people were expecting this grandiose horror film from the perspective of the slasher. But in reality, what we got was exactly what you would think. It's a movie from the perspective of the killer as he's walking around these woods, chasing these teenage kids and killing them. So there are long shots of this killer walking in the woods, walking and walking and walking and walking. And it's
plot happening in the distance, and it's barely audible, like the two of those boys swimming.
Plot happening in the distance. It's so funny. Because it's like, I wish they released it with a companion film of the movie from the survivors, from the kids' perspective, and have it both be released. It'd be so great. But yeah, no, literally you get the plot from little pieces that's happening that you see of other people outside of the serial killer. So this movie begins with a group of friends out in the woods as they discover a locket hanging on the remains of a fire tower. Now, one of them, Tony, pockets said locket, and then later the corpse of the killer known as Johnny rises from the ground. He's pissed because that locket is his.
Yeah, I was like, I initially thought it was just a live person who just buried himself in the ground and had that pipe for breathing.
Oh, right.
That's what it seemed like. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's a vengeful spirit. So that's why he's able to stay down there for abnormally long amounts of time. He doesn't need to eat. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then
I was
again,
like, okay.
a lot of horror movies do that. It's like it's not his real body; it's his vengeful spirit. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it.
But his vengeful spirit has a physical form. So, but yeah, Johnny raises from the dead, pissed, and he starts searching for the locket, and he's walking through the woods. And then he pauses on the site of a rotting fox corpse, and then he hears a nearby argument between two men as he walks to their house. Unnoticed, mind you. Like, he walks into this house unnoticed. Like, no one bothers to look. So when he sees, he's inside the house and he sees a necklace that, of course, he thinks, or you kind of suspect that he thinks is the locket. And he has a brief memory of his father, which is the homeowner. Of course, the homeowner soon returns after he has that memory. And horrified by the person in the house, aka Johnny, he runs away in the woods. And then, of course, the guy gets stuck in a bear trap. And then Johnny, there's like a wide shot, and the guy's like in the distance a little bit, and you just see Johnny walk, and then he just goes to the guy and kills him. I was like, oh, this movie's a treat.
Like, you just see his hand, and then the next shot, he's back inside the house, and his hand's all bloody,
Yeah.
and it's going for the locket. But it's like,
Yep.
oh, it's a different locket. It just says number 1 motherfucker.
Right. And Johnny then hears a car in the distance, and he decides to go in that direction. Johnny approaches. So we jump to him traveling in the woods again. And then he approaches a group of friends sitting around a campfire. And then one of the kids, his name was Etherin. Oh God.
I don't know which kid is which. I just know, I think it's like one of them's Brody, Chris, Aaron, Colt, Evan.
That's Aaron, Ehren.
I think so.
Okay, we'll go with Aaron.
It's
But
an odd way
regardless,
to spell it. I've never seen it spelled that way before.
yeah, that's a weird spelling. But regardless, Aaron, aka one of the people there, decides to recount Johnny's death. Decades prior, Johnny developmentally delayed, son of a local merchant, was tricked into climbing the tower for a bag of toys, only to find someone scared him on top of the tower, and he fell off the tower and he died when he hit the ground. Which those involved in said death, there was a cover up. It may have looked like that the death was a accident instead of on purpose. Johnny's father, of course, learns the truth, and he confronts the person responsible and is killed in a brawl, which was ruled as a self-defense. So now Johnny and his father are both dead because of what happened. And then, according to the legend, 2 series of murders decades apart are attributed to Johnny's vengeful spirit. And then, of course, after the story is told, the group goes inside the cabin, and Ethan steps outside. Oh, this is the first guy that dies, Aaron. And he's smoking, I'm assuming he's smoking some pot or smoking like a cigarette or some shit. And he's by himself outside, and he's standing behind a tree. And then Johnny goes up behind him and takes his blade and puts it in between his mouth and pulls it back and cuts his head off from his mouth back. And that, I was like, oh, that's kind of gross. That's gross. I love it.
Yeah, like the maxilla up and leaves the rest of his body with his tongue attached to that lower part.
Yeah.
While his Walkman gets disconnected and it's playing some music.
1 minute. You didn't give me a list. Oh. I love you. Talk about Johnny in a violent nature. Sorry, boyfriend. Okay. Love you. Mwah. Future haven't cut all that part out. Where was I? Aaron dies, gets his head cut off and cut in half at the mouth. The corner of his mouth back and is gross. And Johnny then drags his body to a nearby park ranger office. Inside, Johnny then collects a pair of dangling hooks and an axe, and domes a antique firefighter mask. Then we jump to the next day, where Johnny comes across Aurora and Brody on a lake dock. Brody, of course, wants to go swimming, and Aurora is practicing yoga. As Brody swims in the lake alone, Johnny submerged in the water, drowns her. And it's not funny, but it's kind of, I like the way they shot it, because they shot it from outside the water, and you just see her come up and then get dragged back down. And she comes up like one time, gets dragged back down again, and then it's just silent.
Yeah, like that whole scene is so odd because, like, first of all, I don't know how that smoke mask is able to keep him from drowning unless it's just watertight.
Honestly, it's very much like Jason. Jason goes in the water and he can't really.
It's who cares logic.
Who cares logic? He's an undead creature.
And
abomination.
The conversation between the two girls is like, "Oh, I'm gonna go swimming. I thought we were doing yoga," and then they're like playing coy with each other. It's like, "Don't do this high school shit." I'm like, "But you're both doing it." You're
Exactly.
both being coy with each other, and then like the blonde girl walks away, and then the other lady in the water, she's still swimming. All of a sudden, she just gets yanked under like it's Jaws. And occasionally she comes up just trying to scream for help, and then eventually she's just dead. And then he slowly gets out of the water.
And then we go to the death, the most gruesome death of the movie, in my personal opinion. So we jump over to Aurora, who's doing yoga on the side of a cliff, on a cliffside. And as she's walking out of the woods, she's like, "Oh, look who decided to come by." And then she turns around and sees the killer and like hook and toe. And she's like, "Oh, fuck." And then she goes to the edge of the cliff and realizes, "Well, I'm fucked." And then she slowly turns around as Johnny shoves his hook straight through her. Now, that's not the gross part, y'all. Buckle up. Put your seatbelts on. I need you to buckle in, ladies and gentlemen and others. I need you to buckle in for this. So he stabs her basically through the abdomen with the hook, full hand and hook. And when he pulls it out, she turns around towards the cliff. And he puts his hand through her abdomen with the hook and attaches the hook to the top of her head, and then pulls the chain with the hook on it with her head attached as she I don't even know how to describe it, how he pulls the head down through the hole in her abdomen, and you can see the spine like ripping and breaking.
Like one of the thoracic bones just breaking through the skin. Like, that is
I was like,
disgusting, and I love it.
I loved it. I was in the theater going, I was watching it today on Shudder, and I'm like, oh no, this is so gross. It's so good, but it's so gross. And literally in the theater after the death, after he pulls her head through the hole that he made, he pushes her down the cliff, and I'm like, you're full of yourself.
She doesn't even make it down to the water, I don't think. Like,
no,
she stops halfway through, and then like some rocks fall in instead.
Yes. It's so good. It's such a wide shot. And just, you see a speck that's her falling. And I'm just like, that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny in a fucked up way. So 3 down. Then we come to Troy, Colt, and Evan emerge, argue over car keys and their missing friends. And one of them throws the keys in the woods. And then, of course, Johnny's there and he picks up the keys and he plays.
There's like a little plastic car attached
Oh,
to it.
yeah,
And
there's
he's
a
like,
little plastic
"Ooh."
car and he
And he
plays
just
around with
plays
it.
the car.
Yeah. As, of course, Colt and Chris drive off on a ATV. Johnny then kills Troy and Evan. I don't remember how he killed those two.
The ones that were left behind.
Yeah.
I think he has his axe and he tries to kill one of them and like he dodged out the way. No, I think he gets his axe and he ends up hitting one of the guys in his leg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think in order to get someone to go outside, he like props a stick in a car to make the horn honk. And then while that guy's
Yes.
distracted, he hits him with an axe. But then the other guy who is also inside fires his gun.
Yeah.
But then as they're running and limping away, he gets the axe and like throws it and hits the back of someone's head. You don't see it, but you just know like
Yeah.
when this friend's like, "Oh my god, dude, are you okay? Get up." And it's like, did it hit him? And then you see the camera pan over from like a bird's eye view. Like, oh yeah, it got him right in the back of the head.
Oh yeah. He's dead.
And then he just picks up a random rock and just drops it.
Oh yes. He just drops it on the guy. You just see brain and skull matter splattering everywhere. It was gross. Not as gross as
That was
Aurora's death, but it was. I'm like, damn. So from there, we jump to Chris and Colt. They return shortly after, having found Aaron's body at the park ranger station, but flee at the sight of Johnny. And of course, by nightfall, Johnny approaches the station where the ranger is explaining to the two leftover survivors that the locket, which Chris is wearing, is what keeps Johnny's soul at rest. And the ranger subdues Johnny with a shotgun, but then he gets paralyzed. Oh, this death was so drawn out, like he was torturing the guy. And he paralyzed him, and then he brought him into a log splitter and split his arm and then split his head. And I'm like, oh, that's...
I like how the movie has to demonstrate it twice. Like, here's what this machine does in case you're not familiar. And it crushes a log. I'm like, oh, I know what's going to happen next. And then he does the arm first.
Yes.
And then he does the head.
And the guy can't do anything but react, but just watch because he's paralyzed. And I was like, damn, that's fucked up. And then we jump to Colt attempts to distract Johnny to trap him. But Johnny, of course, kills him with an axe. And shell-shocked, Chris leaves Johnny's locket hanging on a gas canister and flees into the woods. She accidentally injures her leg while she's running, but Dawn emerges. Dawn comes and she's limping on the nearby road, and a woman decides to pick her up and offers the driver to the hospital. In an attempt to rescue her, the woman recounts how her brother, a Gaveborn, survived a bear mauling in the same woods decades prior. The woman notices then that Chris's bleeding has worsened and stops the truck, insisting that she put a tourniquet around the injured leg to try to stop the bleeding. Chris then is terrified. She's like, no, we need to leave now. In this last 20 minutes, you just see the perspective of Chris and this woman, and you don't know where Johnny is, if he shows up again or not, which is, I think, is so good because you have no idea if he's just going to pop up randomly. And of course, Chris begs the woman to keep driving. So she fixes her up and then starts driving. And then elsewhere, the left behind gas canister is missing Johnny's locket, indicating that Johnny's now put back to rest because he found the locket. It's literally all he wanted was the damn locket. That's all he wanted. Fuck them kids. That's all he wanted was that damn locket. This movie was fabulous. It was a fun ride. I love the scenes of him, just like literally 10 minutes of him just walking in the woods. I love it. I love it. It was literally kind of a big FU to the people who were expecting this grandiose thing when it literally gave you exactly what he said he was going to give you. And it's fabulous. In a violent nature, violence in nature. I'm like, oh, I get the name. I get the name. What'd you think about it, Bunyip?
I did think it was interesting to see things from the serial killer's perspective for once. And I didn't expect it to go this far, and it was sort of like, what would the slasher be doing during this time? And most of the time, he's mainly just looking for stuff to do, and the audience already know what his goal is, but no one else knows until someone delivers the exposition that's like, yeah, he's looking for his locket. It's the only thing he has to remember his mom by. Would you dumb kids put it back?
Exactly. Moral of the story, don't take shit that doesn't belong to you.
Pretty much.
Now, rating system, 1 out of 5 lockets. We'll go simple, 1 out of 5 lockets.
Okay.
I'll let you go first, Bunyip.
I give this more of a 4 locket.
A 4?
I don't think it's a perfect movie, but hardly any movie is. But I really did like seeing things from this perspective, and you could hear these conversations going on in the distance, and it felt different than most typical slasher films.
Yeah. Agreed.
And it was fun seeing like how stupid some of the people look to the killer sometimes, and how over the top the kills would be. Like, why would he bother to drag this kid's body and head to the ranger station, throw the head through to open the door, and then like throw the body through to get access to the smoke mask, and then just start putting that on and wandering around and killing other people? Because like he has a motivation, it's clear. It's just like, why are these your methods?
Right. The boy got creative. He got fucking creative with the way he was killing these kids. I was like, damn. For me, I will give this a 4 as well. It's a solid horror film. Like it's pretty damn good. It's a little better than Superhost that we did last week, for sure. It had a nice gimmick with the whole perspective from the slasher. But I just love the fact that that the director kind of played everybody. He gave us great scenery shots of the killer just walking in the woods, and I absolutely love all that. And I left the theater pleased and pleasantly surprised. 4 out of 5. So the common score is 4 out of 5. Now the movie is getting a sequel, so yay! Hopefully, because I don't see them doing Johnny again. I mean, I guess they could, but I would hope they would turn this series into like an anthology where each movie is based around a different type of slasher. That's what I would hope for anyway. Now, if they do a sequel with Johnny, I mean, bet, do it. But I would think it'd be more fun to experiment with different styles of slasher flicks and turning that into what we got with in a violent nature. Maybe like Michael or Scream would be fun. Ooh, Scream would be fun. You see who the killer is from the get-go, but the whole movie is you watching to see if the other people find out. When they know that they figure it out.
Like you see the killers team up. It's like, okay, you're gonna go here, and then I'm gonna go here. It's like, okay, cool. And then you're just like, these dumb kids can't figure out that there's 2 people.
Exactly. I think it'd be great. Like, make it meta, and that's part. I mean, I like the concept of the film. It's great. So yes, 4 out of 5. Go watch it on Shudder. But yeah, that is today's episode. Catch us next time as we talk about a different movie in our Shudderfest. Until then, Bye bye.
Goodbye.